No.
Okay, so back on Seth and Sean. I'm Sean. We are live, and that's Seth. There we go. So that's Seth, and I'm Sean. Seth and Sean Sports Radio.
Yeah. Okay, apologies for last week.
Backsportspage.com.
Yeah. Blog Talk. Well, I guess not Blog Talk. We're on StreamYard now. Apologies for last week. Sean got a little aggravated, not realizing that we were expecting a foot of snow. Yeah, that guy. And we were expecting a blackout. So I had to take my kids out of we had to drive a little bit. And since we can no longer call into the show, although I did text you what happened, we got a foot of snow. We didn't end up getting a blackout, but we've had 3 of them this year. So we were on the road. Nothing I could do. So I missed what did I miss?
To be fair,
college basketball preview.
Hold on. To be fair, I got the text message then. So I didn't get the text message on time.
I did send it.
Text message. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We are where we are. So last week we went through our our NBA preview. But the most important thing right now is we're fine. So first of all, you can find Seth on Twitter at SCaymans. You can find myself at SU Lawyer 2001. You can find us on Facebook at Seth and Sean Sports, and also on Twitter, Seth and Sean. So there, sometimes we write for this website called Back Sports Page. It's been few and far between recently, but our illustrious leader, Randy Zelia, does want us to plug it. So here we are plugging and plugging away. Unlike
I own the website. I started
Unlike what the Jets did this week, the Jets definitely plugged. No, this is no bueno. Like we can talk basketball in a second.
Hard-earned victory, and
it was definitely hard. It was hard to watch. The 2 worst games to watch this week were the Jets win and Pittsburgh's first half, because that was awful. And we could talk about each one, and we're going to get to a couple of things, including the Mets signing James McCann and what we hope for various teams fall under the Christmas tree this week from the 2 Jews. But so we can get into that. But first and foremost, Seth, give me your NBA finals, just so we can wrap this up from last week. Your predictions for the finals. Who are your final 4?
Final 4, Lakers. I took the Lakers Nuggets last year. I was the one thing I got right. I'll go with Lakers Utah.
Okay.
In the final, in Milwaukee Brooklyn in the East.
So I believe I said Lakers Milwaukee, and I went out on a limb, and I think I said Milwaukee was going to win, and I'm slowly reevaluating that. And it's surprising it's taken me a week to reevaluate it, but I am. And I'm going to...
You had a lot of time on your hands this weekend. Let's be fair.
I did, and I did a lot of walking. And the more and more I see the NBA season starts tonight, the more and more I see this, the more and more I'm coming around to your line of thinking, in that I think Brooklyn has a legitimate shot of winning the title this year. Like, legitimate shot. They are, because when you look at each of these other teams, when you look at the Lakers and you look at the Clippers and you look at the 76ers and you look at what Boston is going through right now, and even look at the Bucks, they are each 1 injury away from not being able to compete for a championship. And I'm not really sure the Nets are 1 injury away. Now, if that injury is Kevin Durant,
they're gone.
Okay, but anybody else, including Kyrie, anybody else, they can compete for a championship.
The team, and this is why I was really hoping we didn't trade for Harden and give up our depth.
Well, it ain't going to happen.
No.
It's not going to happen.
Because Sean Marks is not Billy King. I look around, Miami is solid, but they overachieved and played brilliantly in the bubble last year. Are they really that good? I don't know. Butler played out of his mind. Hero and Robinson were fantastic. Adebayo is that good. Dragic is kind of a little bit at the end. We'll see. Boston has I don't know what to make of Boston. They got the big 2.5 for the most part with Brown, Tatum, and Walker if he's healthy. But the rest of it, I guess the reason, Philly, I have no confidence in until they win a playoff series with the talent that they have. Toronto is not going to win it. So I don't love Brooklyn's defense. I mean, who would? But I kind of look at this team, and I loved this team 2 years ago, when Dinwiddie and LeVert, and they had Russell at that point, and Jared Allen. Now these guys are now mostly on the bench, but it gives you superior depth. And I think the Nets are extraordinarily deep. Look, what concerns me is their defense.
And this is a year where you need depth. Like,
yes.
You're seeing this. First of all, you're seeing this in every sport. But in basketball, you're seeing this, and I'll say this from a personal level. Syracuse played Buffalo last week, and Buffalo went into a quarantine, and all of a sudden Syracuse's games against Notre Dame, UNC, and Wake Forest have now been canceled because those players that played on that against Buffalo, because Buffalo had a COVID problem, can't play. So if you have that instance in the NBA, if you have something along the lines of Dwayne Haskins being stupid, which Dwayne Haskins is stupid, or James Harden going to a nightclub and James Harden being stupid, and then it's all of a sudden caught in those let's say Dinwiddie, and I'm not saying Dinwiddie will do this, Dinwiddie, LeVert, and Allen all go out on the town and they can't play in the next 3 games, the Nets can compensate for that. There are no other teams, none, 0, that can compensate for 3 guys like that being lost for a couple of games. It does not exist in the NBA other than in Brooklyn. And that is for this year, and this year alone is hopefully for this year alone, definitely for this year.
Better be for this year alone.
Right, better be. But for this year, that is championship quality. And you don't need superstars to win a championship this year. I think you need depth more than you need anything else.
Well, I don't know about that. Let's look at last year. I mean, last year you had 2 superstars. Butler played like a superstar last year.
Yep. Butler is a superstar.
Yeah, Butler. I mean, Philly made the wrong move. Nothing you can really say about it at this point. You're always going to need the 2 superstars, but for the regular season, the depth is more important. And look, we don't know how Durant is going to come back. We don't know how Durant and Kyrie are going to gel. It's not a given, but there's a coach. They have an all-star coaching staff led by Steve Nash and now Jacques Vaughn and Mike D'Antoni. I mean, it's a freaking all-star team. And they have, look, Dinwiddie's gone after this year. So if they end up trading Dinwiddie at the break, I understand. But I look at this team, and this team is 9 to 10 deep with real, high level, not all of them all-star level, but 5 or 6 guys, at least in the precipice of talent. Not saying they're going to all make the team, all-star team. So they're right there. I think if Durant is back to 90 to 95% of what he was, then they're as good as anyone.
So I'm gonna take a little umbrage with what you just said, in that Dinwiddie is gone after this year. Dinwiddie's only gone if Joseph Tsai won't pay a luxury tax up with the wazoo, because
but he's already paid the luxury tax. I'm not sure he's going to want to. Plus, I don't know if Dinwiddie. Look, you know my feelings on Dinwiddie. I love him, But I'm not sure he wants to be the fourth or fifth guy on a team. He may very well want to be the one or the two. Now, he can't be the one or the two. He can't be the one on a team that's going to a title. But could you see if Charlotte can get rid of Rozier, a year earlier on the contract, and he's the 1/2 with Hayward. And again, I'm just throwing names out. I know they're way over the cap, but I can see them make. It depends really. What does he want? Does he want to be part of a championship team, or does he want to be a 1-2 on a borderline playoff team? I don't know.
I will tell you that was the first name that was on the tip of my tongue was Terry Rozier, because Dinwiddie, he's probably a little better than Rozier, but he's not a lot better than Rozier. He's
more consistent than Rozier.
Yes. So he's going to get the same type of contract, a 4-year, $55 million.
I was going to say 60 to 65 million. Yeah.
Okay. But in 2 years, Dinwiddie, as a 32-year-old on a $16 million contract, is an overpaid player. So
is he 30? Is he 30 at this point?
I think he's 28 right now. So if he's 29,
years on 30, that's not.
No. 29, he becomes out. So 31, 32, somewhere in. I'm just saying, like right now, we view Terry Rozier as an albatross contract in Charlotte. The majority of the people do, because you have Devontae Graham there. He's not a number one. He is what he is. He has no. Do you think that Dinwiddie, and I don't, has another step to his game? I don't. No. I think he is what he is.
That he has made it to this level. He's 20. Dinwiddie's 27.
Okay.
So that he's made it to, considering he was injured for 2 years. That he's made it to this level where he could very well have been an all-star last year. Sorry. I'm just pulling up the stats. He was 20 points a game, 6 assists, and 3.5 rebounds.
Yeah, as the guy with the ball the entire time. He did what basically Terry Rozier did in Boston before he got that contract. And that's fine if that's what you're looking for, but that's who he is, right? That he is a good player on a bad team. He is a decent player on a good team.
He's a good supplemental.
Yes.
He can be your number 4, number 5 player, and you can win a title with that.
Absolutely.
You can't win the title with him as your number 1 or number 2.
Correct. And I feel that the Nets, look, and again, this is all based on what Joseph Tsai is going to do, right? Because he can keep that team together if he wants. Any owner can keep a team together if they want. You can go down that path of the repeater tax over and over and over again if you want. And I think we're going to see a lot of whether that's going to happen based on whether Dinwiddie resigns or whether they re-sign Jared Allen because he's coming up for an extension. And can you package Allen and Dinwiddie at the deadline and put together $16 million of a better player that may be on more than a 1-year contract? Well, I've gone through this with my buddy Mark Rubin, since Boston has this huge exception, the $22 million exception due to the Gordon Hayward contract. By the way, those guys on 22 or less million dollars who are going to be looking to get out of their current situation, they're not plentiful people. There are not a lot of them. Would you trade a Jared Allen and a Spencer Dinwiddie for a Buddy Hield? Because that's it. But Buddy Hield on 3 years as opposed to Dinwiddie and Allen on 1 year.
Here's the problem we have is DeAndre Jordan. It's because Allen should be the starter. Jordan,
okay, but he's not. But we're living in reality, right?
I get it. I guess the question, what I don't know, I'm actually looking up the salary
of who.
I'm trying to look up the Nets salaries.
Well, Jordan makes 10
million a year. I know that.
Allen makes like 5. Dinwiddie makes like 12.
But I think I do think they're going to have, because Allen, I think, is going to want 4 years, 60 to 70 million.
At least.
Yeah. I don't know if you can keep him, if you can re-sign him.
Well, he's a restricted free agent next year. So I believe they have the right to match. But there's going to, as I said on last week's show, 60% of the NBA will have cap room next year. 60%.
Yes, but the Nets are not one of those teams.
No. And that's the point, right? So if the Knicks want to say, hey, that Jared Allen, we'll give you a restricted free agent, Nets, go match a max. The Nets are not matching a max for Jared Allen. They're just not. They just won't do it.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the contracts right now. Yeah, Jared Allen and Dinwiddie are both are restricted free agents, I guess, at the end of this year.
Oh, so Dinwiddie's got one more year, really?
Yeah, Dinwiddie's got one more. Dinwiddie's got a player option. Excuse me. Allen has a qualifying option.
Right. So Dinwiddie's gone.
Yep.
And Allen has a qualifying option,
right,
which is exactly what will happen.
Durant at 40, Kyrie at 35, LeVert at 17, which is a good deal. Amazing to say that. Harris at 16. The problem is you have Taurean Prince at 13 million, who I would trade tomorrow. And you have DeAndre Jordan, who at 10 million I would trade tomorrow. But I don't think
hold on. Let's talk about Taurean Prince, right? Who I liked in Atlanta. I still had a bad first year in New Jersey. Oh, sorry, in Brooklyn. I will keep going back to Brooklyn. Who else besides your two big guys do you have that can defend a 4? You don't.
No, that's why they picked up Jeff Green.
But that's what Taurean Prince brings you.
Have Jeff Green now for $2 million a year.
But Jeff Green plays a small ball 5. He doesn't play a bang
stretch 4 defending. We're not talking apples and oranges here.
But Jeff Green was never a good defender to begin with.
He's a mediocre defender. Prince is a 3-and-D guy who can't shoot a 3.
Well, but Jeff Green can't play offense. He's played on
good last year. They also have some of these younger guys. They have Corix. They have what do you call it?
They got Claxton. Yeah, they got all guys that weigh just. Hold on. They got all guys that just weigh a little bit less than you and that are 6 inches taller than you, 6 to 10 inches taller.
6'7"?
No, but Prince. No, but I'm saying
220.
No, I'm saying except. Hold on. Except the Claxton. I'm talking about the Claxtons and those guys. Those guys are bean poles.
Yes,
they're not. So Taurean Prince is there for a purpose. He is. He played very well in Atlanta. He had a bad first year, and I think he stays for the whole year. I don't think. First of all, you can't get out of that salary.
I was going to say you're not going to be able to trade him.
And I think he actually is a productive member of that rotation. I may be wrong, but I think
he may be a productive part of the rotation as a supplemental player. Yes. But I don't think he sees himself as that. He didn't last year see himself as that.
Well, but he also didn't back up Kevin Durant. Now you're backing up theoretically, if healthy, the most complete scorer in the NBA.
Yes.
And I was shocked. I was shocked when I looked at the stats. Kevin Durant is a rotisserie dream. I didn't even realize how good a fantasy basketball player.
Fantasy basketball this year?
I'm not, but I just went and looked at it. He's 30 points in. Granted, we don't know what we're getting this year from Kevin Durant, but let's say we get 85 to 90%. He is a 25-point-a-game scorer. He is shooting 90% from the free throw line, 89, 90%. He's also shooting 40% from 3. He's dishing out 5 assists a game. He gets a steal a game and probably a block a game. There are no other players in the NBA, none, 0, that do that. None.
That was also why he was considered one of the 2 best players in the world 2 or 3 years ago.
Agreed, but I did not appreciate until this is on me. I did not appreciate.
But you're incredible.
Oh, that's true. I did not appreciate how good he is. And maybe it's because he played in Golden State. And maybe it's because he played in Oklahoma City. And I didn't watch every game that he played. And in Oklahoma City, when he played on both of those teams, you could make the case he was never the guy. You could make the case. I'm not saying it's true. But in Oklahoma City, he's sharing with Westbrook. And in Golden State, he's sharing with everybody. Right? I mean, between Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry and Draymond Green. You can make the case. Not saying it's 100% accurate, but make the case. So I didn't appreciate it. And I got to tell you, I said last week on the show, I'll say it again, I'm looking forward to the NBA. I haven't said that in a decade. Looking forward to watching.
That's because the only other option, the Islanders aren't for another month and a half. When does
actually 3 weeks?
Really?
January 13th, baby. We're back.
Are you at the new stadium, or is that not till next year?
Not till next year. But that's okay because guess what? Nobody's going in the stadium anyway. So no, this year. It's New York. Nobody's going in any stadium.
A mutual friend of ours has posted like 7 pictures of it already.
Yeah, his rendering. I know. Yeah. And I'll be hitting him up for some tickets. You have
to come up north, dude, in the winter.
That's fine.
Soft.
That's fine.
You're soft.
Excuse me. That is the worst. That is the worst thing you could say to a basketball player. I am not so. Oh wait, I'm not a basketball player.
You're not a basketball player. You live in Georgia. You're soft.
Hey, it was 60 degrees today. I wore a t-shirt and shorts. I was good. Everybody else was bundled up in their parkas. It was just funny.
People in Atlanta own parkas?
Yeah, they do for 60 degrees. And scarves and gloves. It's like hell froze over. If this was
Syracuse, hold on.
If this was
Syracuse today,
what's that?
And I got one of these. Would you like one? Do you need one? It's very well insulated.
I don't know what that is.
It's a big blanket.
Oh, why do I need a blanket?
Because it's 60 degrees and you're going to be cold.
Dude, I spent my entire life in the Northeast. I'm fine.
You've become soft very quickly.
I haven't turned on the heat once this year. I'm good.
Actually, it was very funny. One of our staff who's wonderful. So for anyone who knows me knows I never spend money on clothes, hence the backwards hat and everything else I'm wearing. But Fanatics had like a 60% off sale. So I bought myself a couple sweatshirts, which to me is treating myself. It was like $60. Of course, one of my staff members bought me the exact same sweatshirt today.
Good for them.
So now I have 2 of the same. Would you like a Maryland sweatshirt?
No, not at all. 0% do I want. None. The same amount of times that you'll wear a Syracuse shirt, I'll wear a Maryland shirt. It won't happen. But I do have Ohio State paraphernalia. So
I should also show everyone the picture of my son.
Oh, so yes.
Jakey, who's 4.5, had to go to the doctor. And actually, for those of you who've never seen my kid, this is both of them in their Brooklyn jerseys. So,
guys, if you're gonna show Jake,
well, that's it. That's the picture.
That's the picture. Syracuse all the way, baby.
They are a Mickey Mouse school, as shown on his shirt.
You know, the best part is when Jake says he wants to go to Syracuse, and you're going to have to pony up $70,000 for him to go.
I will get Syracuse. He better be going to Newhouse, or he's paying for it him damn self.
Oh, of course he's going to Newhouse because he's the smart kid. He's going to be a smart kid, and he'll know what school.
Hopefully, he can get into Northwestern or Missouri at that point if he's doing for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you want him to go into Chicago? You want him to go in the Midwest? Ugh.
Chicago? No, hell yeah! It's quicker for me to fly to Chicago than to drive to Syracuse.
That is actually true. That is a true. No, it's not. Sure. Wait, fly to Chicago. Yeah, fly to Chicago. Yep.
I didn't say drive. I'm not driving 12 hours.
It's 2.5 to Chicago. It's 4 to 4:15 to Syracuse.
Can you imagine Carly and I doing a 12-hour drive through Indiana and Ohio? 16-hour drive. Have you met my wife?
I withhold comment, as this will be online for posterity. I withhold comment on anything entering your marital relations.
I do feel like the new saying during the show is, "Have you met my wife?"
It's not "Have you met my mother?" It's "Have you met my wife?" Or my mother-in-law. So
Stop.
oh, now it's my problem. So anyway, so we did start talking about college, and thus the final four have been announced: Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, and Notre Dame. And I'm not interested at all in any of this for several reasons. But
Ex-girlfriend must be happy. That's about all I got.
there's no. Are you interested in watching the four? Are you going to watch them?
Of course, I'm going to watch them. I'm a college football fan. Doesn't mean I think it's the right pick, but
I mean, I'm not going to watch them. Like I have
You're not a college football fan. We've established this many times over the year. Established by you picking Nebraska to make the Final Four last year.
But the thing is, I'll watch. But you're right in that in one sense, and you're wrong in another. Because if there is a game that is a good game, I will watch it, regardless of who's playing. I will watch a good game
because you love the top level of sports.
I watch the NBA playoffs when the Knicks are never in it. So, I mean, I watch good games. I watch the Stanley Cup playoffs when the Islanders lost. I still watched good hockey. I will watch any baseball season that's not 60 games. I will watch good baseball. I have no interest in watching these teams, and I probably will not watch the games.
If it's Alabama Clemson in the final, will you watch that?
Much more likely. First of all, I believe that both are deserving, so there's that. Second of all, I believe they're probably the top two teams in college football. There's that.
They are.
I probably will not watch any of the semifinals, either of the semifinals. Excuse me, not any. Either of the semifinals. I have no interest in rewarding. Maybe it's that I don't have an interest in rewarding mediocrity. And
okay, hold on. It's not mediocrity. 6-0 is not mediocrity.
6-0 is the hold on. 6-0 is the
is not mediocrity.
6-0 is the Major League Baseball season, which we've all heard my theory on why I did not watch any Major League Baseball this year. So 6-0 is my comparison to the Major League Baseball season.
Fine.
There's not enough. Okay?
Fine.
Okay. Notre Dame got in because Notre Dame got in because they're Notre Dame. Notre Dame got in because they're Notre Dame.
Well, wait a second. Now, it depends where you're bringing the argument to. If you're bringing the argument to versus Texas A&M, I disagree. Texas A&M lost by 30 to Alabama. Notre Dame beat Clemson. Texas A&M beat Florida. Notre Dame beat North Carolina. Texas A&M beat Auburn. Notre Dame's has a better argument. If you're arguing Cincinnati, look, I prefer to see Cincinnati, and I have no interest in seeing Notre Dame. Alabama's going to be look. That's not the game I'd be interested in seeing. I'd like to see Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, because whether you think they deserve it or not, they're probably one of the four best teams. This is an argument we have with college basketball all the time. That final 8, final 10 teams that get in. It's whether you deserve. Are they one of the best teams or whether it's warranted? They're one of the best teams. If it was up to me, no, I would probably go with the two group of 5 teams, Coastal and Cincy, because they won all their games. And they played a lot more of them. And honestly, their schedule wasn't much worse than Ohio State's. Ohio State beat Indiana, who was good, and Northwestern, who was good. Colorado, Cincy beat 2 or 3 top 10, 20 teams also. And I'd like to see something different. But the difference with Notre Dame is Notre Dame, you may say, is warranted, but Notre Dame is not good enough. Ohio State is good enough, but may not be warranted.
Yes, in both cases. 100%. Both cases.
Ohio State's in, so to not watch Ohio State Clemson doesn't make sense to me. To not watch, because whether they belong or not in, they're still in. Just like I've argued over the years, I hate the first four in the NCAA tournament. Doesn't mean I don't watch them once they're in. I don't think they belong.
But I don't. All right. But that's against my argument of watching any baseball this year. Like, I didn't watch any World Series because I didn't think it was a justifiable season. So Ohio State, let's say Ohio State wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're putting good money after bad because you can state that they didn't deserve to be there. And I get your point is that they're there. So we take them as they are today, right? That's I believe 100% your point is that they've made it now we start all over. Everybody's equal footing, 4 teams. But why is that the right argument to make?
Because this is what it is. So your argument is not to watch. Look, if this was Syracuse.
You asked me the same thing about the Mets. You said if the Mets were in the World Series, would I be watching? I said no.
And I disagreed with you. And I disagree with you on that if Syracuse was in this 4, you'd be watching. Are you fucking kidding? Are you kidding? Of course you'd be watching. The reason now, look, you're a huge baseball fan, and I respect and admire you actually held away from it. You watched less than I did. I am not a huge baseball guy. I watched intermittently, and that was it. But you cannot convince me that if Dino Babers led this team to the Final Four and they were down in Texas, your ass would not have driven 1,000 miles wearing 77 pieces of Syracuse paraphernalia.
Well, let's understand
there and holding the sign saying, "Please go to the Jets. Please go to the Jets."
But here's the thing: if Syracuse made it, they would have played 11 games.
Fair, but if Syracuse made it, first of all, Syracuse couldn't make it without playing 11 games. So I understand your point. But if Syracuse did make it with 7, you may say there's not warranted.
It's true.
You would. But you'd still
be there. I'd probably still be there.
Who are you kidding?
I'd probably still be there. Okay, that's fair. I disagree with your baseball thing because I don't believe that if the Mets were in it, I would have watched. Maybe Syracuse would have been different. Okay, let me ask you this question. I thought about this the other day. Tell me what all 4 of these things, 4 or 5, we'll decide how many there are once we get there, have in common. Okay? The center in the NBA, the running back, the closer in Major League Baseball, and the goon in hockey. What do those 4 things have in common?
They're all outdated?
Yes.
They're all overrated?
They're all outdated. They all don't exist. They
exist. They just don't have the same relevance they had 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
They're all replaceable. Let's leave it at that, right? Each one of them is a replaceable item. And it was funny because I was thinking about this when somebody was saying that the Mets should go sign a guy named Liam Hendricks. And Liam Hendricks has been a
reliever for the A's the last couple of years.
Yeah, has been lights out for the last 2 years. And they said, somebody on a podcast said, the Mets should spend $12 million on getting another reliever. And I'm walking while listening to this podcast. And I said, are you crazy? He's a reliever. You don't spend money on relievers. Like, it just doesn't work. Look at the Yankees. Look at any team other than the Oakland A's and the Cincinnati Reds. You don't spend especially since the Mets already have 3 relievers that are in the.
Are you paying Edwin Diaz right now?
Right. Exactly. Well, Edwin Diaz, actually, you're only paying $800,000. But you are paying, he's last year of control. But you are paying Jarius Familia $10 million. You are paying Trevor May $8 million. So let's go pay another $10 million.
Is Familia still suspended?
No, one more year.
Okay.
He's
good.
back.
He's back. Okay.
He's back. He's back.
Well, luckily you have a trillionaire who's your owner at this point. So,
but that brought up the thought of, all right, so now let's look at the NBA, right? And you got the center position, where other than Joel Embiid, there really isn't a center that Rudy Gobert and I guess Jokic, but are any of those guys centers, or are they I mean, Gobert, you can make the case, is a center, right? He doesn't.
They're all centers.
He
Gobert
doesn't
is a center.
out.
Embiid fell in love with shooting threes, which is why you're kind of.
And Jokic does the same thing.
Jokic is a playmaker 5.
Right, which is amazing.
He's a legit 5. He's 7 foot 280. He's not a stretch.
No, true. I was just trying to think of positions in each of these sports that, as sports evolve,
the old time centers are now gone, other than Gobert.
Yeah.
At a level of high significance.
Sure.
You don't have the Kareems, you don't have the David Robinsons, where they would step out from 10 feet. Right? Like that's a Gobert. You don't see Gobert shooting threes. You see him clogging the lane, playing D, and putting him some post up. And even Dwight Howard, 10 years ago.
Right.
Embiid has just wants to shoot threes because he thinks he's a 2 guard. And, Gasol was a wonderful player for many years. He's kind of past his prime at this point. And he had kind of that slick Jokic game as well.
Yep.
But Jokic is a down low player. The difference is the guy can just do everything.
He's Luka Doncic, except he's 4 to 5 inches taller and 60 pounds heavier.
And slightly heavier, and not quite the shooter.
He's
that kind of slick, really slick slick international game. He's a blast to watch. That Denver team is so much fun if Murray's playing at their top level.
Yeah,
Mitchell. I'm sorry, wrong. Jokic is Denver.
I was just curious how the game has definitely passed people by, right? So Hollinger was saying on The Athletic, why are you paying Myers Leonard $8 million? Sorry, not Myers, Mason Plumlee, $8 million a year when you can get these guys at the minimum? Why are you?
I don't understand the move.
Why are you paying big men that will never get off the bench because they can't guard stretch fives because they just clog the middle? Why are you paying them that amount of money? And you look in each sport, and there is a spot.
There's always a natural progression in these sports.
Agreed. It was very weird to have a self-realization that each sport does mature and each sport does change, where there are specific positions that are being outdated. And you're right that they all do it throughout history, because in the 70s, you and I have discussed this. Look at we did it 2 shows ago, right? Who were the top shortstops? Mark Belanger, right? Gary.
Nobody could hit worth a damn.
Right. And but if you go back to the 50s, the shortstops were Vern Stevens and Joe Cronin. And those guys hit 40 to 50 a year, 30 to 40.
50. There were 30 to 40 home run guys a year.
Right.
Yeah.
So there were MVPs as shortstops. Then in the 70s, the shortstop changed and it was all fielding because pitching got better. And then all of a sudden in the 80s, it became the offensive position. And now it's kind of going back to the defensive position, where you want your shortstop and second base and center fielder to be good gloves, not necessarily the prime bat off the bench.
Look, with basketball, it's the athleticism it's the athleticism. You have guys, typically the guys who are 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot 20, 25 years ago were not the speedsters. We're not shooting 25 footers because it just didn't exist. And so they played it down low and got the boards. But now you have guys like a Durant who's 6'11", 7 feet. And all these other guys who can shoot and can run and can move. So a 6'10", 230 guy versus a 6'10", 280. 280 guy has nobody. There's no room for him. The game is too fast at this point for him. He can't get out and guard.
And the one thing that you and I have discussed over time, and we've talked about it more with the NFL than we have anything else, is it time to change the court? Is it time to change the size of the playing surface in whatever playing surface you're talking about? Is it time? Because while the athleticism has improved, right, and while guys have become bigger And
Yeah.
is it time to make more space for those players to play, or does the game just adapt, which is what we're seeing?
Well, which is most likely going to happen. Look, you can't get people to agree on anything. You think you're going to agree on the expansion of the court? It's not going to happen. By the way, someone just wrote on our StreamYard. Said college sucks.
Thanks.
Only if you play for Kentucky right now does it really suck.
Well, there's a couple of things going on there. First of all, my college experience was kind of awesome. I
kind of love mine too.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had 25 years later.
So really, without context, saying college sucks doesn't really float my boat here. If you'd like to join us and talk about why you believe college sucks, we're welcome to have you on the show. But context is everything, buddy. So we'll talk.
Well, maybe he's maybe it's because his team was playing in the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. So based on that, college may suck.
Is that one of the ones that wasn't canceled?
I mean, that actually has South Carolina in it, who are 2-8.
Excuse me?
2-8.
We have hit a new low.
This year there's no 500 because so many of the teams. Maryland's 3-3. They didn't play. Michigan State. A lot of these Western teams. So you have some of these teams that are under 500. Like one of the best bowl games this year, and I'm not kidding, is Liberty versus Coastal Carolina. That will be fun.
Yeah. Well, Liberty's got
one team's 9-1 and one team's 10-0.
Well, Liberty's got a coach that's going to won't be at Liberty. He won't be at Liberty for much longer.
I think he just signed an extension, but he'll be there another year then.
Yeah, I mean, that is probably the best situation for both of those teams because people will tune in. First of all, Coastal Carolina is like everybody roots for them because everybody feels like they were gypped out of the BC, whatever you want to call BCS.
Gypped out of the group of 12, the group of 6. I mean, the reality is you look through, like, they beat Louisiana. Louisiana beat Iowa State by 17. Ole Miss, I don't even know really. I don't even know if Ole Miss is actually in. I don't even know what the hell Ole Miss is doing there, to be honest. I mean, I look at some of these games. Auburn was so lousy they fired their coach last week. Now Georgia, Cincinnati, but Georgia's not very good this year. I mean,
hold on. To be fair, they did fire their coach and pay out $20 million to do it. So they spent a pretty penny, especially when they're still paying out the last guy.
Yeah, well, this is a state that voted Tommy Tuberville in for Congress, and he does for Senate, and he doesn't know the 3 branches of government. So who am I to? Anyway, I mean, there are some games here that are good. Oklahoma, Florida. You know what? That's a pretty good game. I'd watch that, and it's at 8:00, so I'll be able to watch the second half because my kids will be asleep. God bless YouTube TV. My wife watches whatever she watches. She's watching. But no, this is a year where, at a minimum, you could have had 2 legitimate teams in the group of 6. If not in the CFP, at least in the Orange Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, Gator Bowl, whatever the 4 bowls that are left. Instead, they half-assed it again, which is exactly what I expect which is exactly what I expect. I have no expectations, and this way I'm never really disappointed.
I have nothing to say to that. Like, seriously, that is a horrible way of thinking about it. And I understand that that's only through experience that you're getting there, right? Is that when you're disappointed as much as you and I have been by the NCAA for reasons that make no sense, right? I mean, from suspensions to sanctions that make no sense.
Whatever happened to Sean Miller? Whatever happened to Arizona?
Right, that's what I'm saying. This is kind of what I'm saying, right? So blue bloods get away with murder, not murder, get away with
well, they probably do,
and Syracuse and other schools don't. And it's really hard. Like today, if you saw Dan Mullins in Florida got dinged by the NCAA, and for impermissible contact. And Dan Mullen's got a 1-year show order clause. Well, last time I checked, Dan Mullins is still the coach.
He's employed. So unless he's going to another college team in next year, it doesn't matter.
Right. So where does that play? Right. I mean, it mind boggles me in some ways, and this is your point, right? Is that how the NCAA justifies some things and doesn't justify others. But at the same time, I'm not exactly sure how you could change it. And maybe that's one of those things that we wish for Santa Claus to bring to society is an NCAA that makes sense. But the way I see the NCAA is they are in a hard position. They really are, right? There are no two offenses that are equal. There are no two situations that are entirely equal. So if you want to create a government where there are minimums of this, that, and the other thing, even when you look at the court of law, my specialty, there are mitigating circumstances for everything. And thus minimum sentences are pared down, maximum sentences are handed out in some places and not others. I don't know how you do it better than say that the NCAA is made up by humans, and humans are fallible. And it's unfortunate consequence, and maybe that's what you're getting at, is that this way you're not disappointed ever because you don't feel like there is any consistency between them. Maybe that's the point. I don't know.
Well, I guess to me, at a minimum, you expand it to 8 and have a mandatory group of 6 team in there. Have a mandatory non-power 5 team in there, and they're not always the 8th seed. That would be my way of doing it. Would be you'd have the conference champions of all 5. You have one non-power 5 team as the 6th seed, and then you have your 2 wild card teams, 7 and 8.
So you want them always as the 6th seed, right?
Well, I'm assuming they're never going to jump above it. Okay. I could be wrong. What I'm saying is the conference champions should have the top 6 seeds.
Okay, but what does the 6th seed do for you?
6th seed, all I'm saying is you have 5 conferences and one group of 5.
So you're saying that if the non-power was not the 6th seed, they would always be the 8, and then they would always play Alabama.
Exactly.
And they'd always get rocked. So
exactly. So no one would ever have an argument one way or the other. So let's make it practical. If you're going to do it this way, and if just look at it even for this season, Washington actually Cincy wouldn't be the 6th seed this year. Washington would be Oregon would be the 6th seed because Oregon has 2 losses. So you'd have Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Oklahoma or Ohio State 3-4, probably Ohio State 3, Oklahoma 4, Cincy 5, and you could put Cincy over Oklahoma. It wouldn't be unreasonable. Oklahoma's got 2 losses, so 4-5. Washington or whatever, Oregon at 6, Notre Dame 7, and then A&M at 8. You know what? That's attractive to me. That's a lot more attractive to me than what we got. It gives me some interesting matchups. And it gives me something that teams can, a Florida team or, Florida had beaten Alabama. Florida still wasn't going. And Florida played brilliantly offensively in that game against Alabama. It was in it for the most part the whole game. Because otherwise, legitimately, what are you looking at here? The Pac-10 has no chance of getting into these bowls for the most part in a 4-game. The Big 12 barely does. This to me at least somewhat gives everyone a shot. Now, the reality...
That was going to be my next statement, is we know who 2 of these teams are going to be every year.
Yes, but there's nothing you can do about that.
No. I'm not saying there is, right? But that's what makes 4 worse than 8.
Yes.
Because you already got 50% of the participants right away without even touching it. You have Alabama and Clemson every year. I believe it's been every year, right? Every year.
Ohio State every year.
Yeah.
Ohio State's been 5 out of 6 years.
So you got 3 out of the 4, so you're fighting for one spot.
Exactly.
And this is that's no bueno. Okay, so let's move on. So give me something that you are hoping for Santa puts under the Christmas tree for Major League Baseball.
I'll be honest that by the summer we can legitimately go to games.
I like that because I'd really like to go to a game at some point soon. I will say I would like labor peace this year. I would like there to be a season where you have all winter to figure this out. Don't wait till the last 2 minutes to do it, which is what they did last year. And because of that, wasted away basically half a year half a season. I don't want another year where I don't watch baseball. And if you give me another 80-game season, I will tell you quite frankly, if you give another 80-game season, you are going to lose half the people that watch baseball to begin with. Because
you lose half of it last year, so by the associative property or the communicative property, whatever it is, you're down to like 25% of pretty much nobody at this point. Or no one under the age of 35 or under the age of 30.
Well, I think that's exactly what would happen. I mean, that's the sad part. I think that is exactly what would happen. Is if they go through another 80-game season, it would basically wipe them out. And I don't want it. I love baseball and whatnot, but it's really hard to understand that you have a game in which which is the easiest sport to play during COVID, and it's the hardest sport to get on the field. Like, it just doesn't make. We said this all summer. It makes no sense.
Can we remember this at Rob Manfred's Hall of Fame induction ceremony in 15 years?
What, the same way that we remember Bud Selig's Hall of Fame when all they did was when they said what a great job he did, and everybody was like, "Yeah, you glossed over all of steroids." Yeah, and you ruined the All-Star game. Yeah, we remember that one too. Okay, so if you're in the NFL, what are you hoping that if you're Roger Goodell, what are you hoping that Santa puts under the Christmas tree? And if you say a giant Super Bowl, it ain't going to happen this year. So
no, you're just thinking, what does Roger Goodell want?
What does Roger Goodell want?
Roger Goodell wants someone to bring in Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah. And it may be Jim Harbaugh at some point.
He may be walking through those East Forum headquarters.
He's not going to be the Jet coach. We've already discussed this. I think what Roger Goodell wants more than anything else is having 2 healthy quarterbacks at the Super Bowl, starting quarterbacks. Because if there is a COVID case.
You mean Matt Moore, Taysom Hill doesn't sound as appetizing as Drew Brees and Patrick Mahomes?
I think that is his worst nightmare right now. Yeah, it's that the week before the Super Bowl, there is an outbreak, and you are playing Taysom Hill versus Chase Daniel or something along those lines. I know Chase Daniel is not on the team.
I think it's Matt Moore.
Matt Moore. Regardless, it doesn't matter. That is by far the worst case scenario, because that might be a Super Bowl like the Pittsburgh Steelers first half, which would be unwatchable. I mean,
which you're still bitter at, and my fantasy football leagues are hating me over.
Well, my fantasy football leagues are hating me over it.
Well, no, different. My opponents hated me.
Oh, I don't care.
I benched him was I'd already won the game.
Yeah. Well, okay. So if you are now Adam Silver and you want Santa to bring you something under the Christmas tree, what do you want?
I think it's expansion time.
You want money.
I think it's expansion time. And okay, I know there's a team. I know there's a town, a city in the Northwest
that has an arena.
It's got a fan set. It's won a championship, although that was when we were 3. And there's going to be $1 billion entry fee.
It's going to be $2 billion because it's going to be another
Two
team.
teams.
Who's the other team and where are they going to be? That's the hard part here. Is not the first team.
No, Seattle's a given.
Is Vegas going to get a team?
What?
Is Vegas going to get a team?
It may be Vegas. And actually, Vegas would be a perfect place because Vegas would work perfectly. It also may be a Midwest team like a Kansas City or Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But Vegas is the showier play.
Yeah. And Vegas, we know, has the room, has the ability to do it. We've seen it.
We've seen it with hockey.
Yeah. Okay. And lastly, if you are Gary Bettman, who runs a sport that you have no interest in whatsoever, what is he hoping for under the tree?
Not to be booed to death when he gets the Stanley Cup to the Devils next year.
To the Devils. That is a.
I'll take it if they can make the playoffs.
That is.
They have they've had like 4 number 1 picks in a row. You got to figure at some point something's going to happen.
I will tell you what Gary Bettman wants. Gary Bettman wants a season as run as well as he had last year.
Yeah.
Because of all the leagues, and you can say that the NHL is the least popular of the 4 leagues.
It ran beautifully. It
was the only league, soup to nuts, that had no problems. 0. And if he can get another year like he did, and it's going to be much harder, right? So there's no bubbles. It's going to be a lot harder with travel and everything along those lines. But if he can get through another successful year, hockey's going to get a boost. Because
then what it may do is you may get a real TV contract.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
and not with Versus or NBCSN, but with a Fox Sports.
Back to ESPN. They want it.
With an ESPN. Something along those lines. You want to get back. Because, look, right now there are 2, forgetting college for purposes of this discussion, there are 2 sports. And then it used to be 4, then there were 3, and now there are 2. There is basketball, there is football. Everything else is 10 levels below.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I think that's what Gary Bettman wants. I think that's what every hockey fan wants. They just want a season, and coming to an agreement on starting in January is the best case for all, because now there's a day. January 13th, NHL drops the puck. Tonight, the NBA drops the puck. Throws the ball up. But before we go, I think we have to pay a little homage. And it's like every week we hear about another one of the guys that we grew up watching, unfortunately passing away. And yesterday that was Kevin Green. And I got to tell you, that took me. Tom Seaver didn't take me by surprise. Lou Brock didn't take me by surprise. Al Kaline. Kevin Green is 14 years older than you and me, Seth. Kevin Green took me by surprise, or was 14 years older, excuse me. Kevin Green was a tremendous athlete and a tremendous player. And for the Steelers, for the Rams, for the Carolina Panthers, for the Niners. Not sure he was a Hall of Famer. Not exactly sure I agreed with the Hall of Fame selection, seeing that I believed he was a one-way player that just rushed the passer, didn't play the run very well. But he did win a Defensive Player of the Year, so obviously somebody thought he played the run okay. And he passed away yesterday at 58, and I got to tell you, that hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, it was a strange one because of the players you've talked about, we've seen Bob Gibson. Forget
Sure.
Kobe, because Kobe is an anomaly, but we've seen Bob Gibson, we've seen Tom Seaver, we've seen a bunch of other people. Most of them we don't really remember in their prime. As good as Seaver was, and he pitched to the mid to late 80s, Sean and I are probably older than most of the people who are listening to the show or watching the show, or will be watching the show on download, because really not too many people watch us live. But we didn't see him in his prime in the 70s. We never saw Gibson pitch. We saw Kevin Green in his prime, and we remember Kevin Green in his prime. Him and Greg Lloyd in Pittsburgh, and when he was the Rams before that, and when he was wrestling against Diamond Dallas Page. Yeah, he was adrenaline personified. So it was, it was a that one was a little bit of a shocker.
Yeah.
I actually thought when I saw the headline, I thought it was going to be Mean Joe Green,
which would have been a lot more understandable.
Yeah,
given the age discrepancy between the two. But when I saw that somebody posted on Facebook, a Pittsburgh Steeler fan, I was like, wow. And I had to look up his age because I was like, you're right, Seth. This is a guy in his prime that we saw. And we have not – you have your Jose Fernandez, you have your Kobe Bryants, you have your guys that pass away due to unfortunate circumstances. This is just life. And – yes, unfortunate that he passed away. Like I said, a gut punch. Okay, so next week we will have our New Year's resolutions, and we'll talk a little bit more about the start of the NBA season as that tips off tonight. You can find us again, backsportspage.com, and we have a multitude of other shows here on StreamYard, so please check them out, and we will check with you next week. All right, Seth?
Have a good one.
See you, everybody. No, not Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.